Should you spend your money on sign-up bonuses or should you worry about the multipliers on your cards? I think that's a big question that often isn't answered in the points and miles community because different videos and different blogs will focus on this particular card and its rewards as far as multipliers go. And we'll talk about transfer partners and all of that matters. But what really is important is a person knowing their own spending, knowing their own ability to earn points, and determining, well, based upon my spend and based upon what I have available to me, what's the best way for me to earn the most amount of points. So in today's video, I'm going to break down two different spending styles, kind of fictional things that I've come up with of two different people. One who spends low, so $2,000 a month, $24,000 a year, and another one who spends very high, $8,500 a month, $102,000 per year. And compare those two things and show why, depending on what your spending level is, it really depends on what strategy you should employ when you're trying to rack up the most points and miles. So if you would, please hit the like and subscribe button, and let's dive into it together. Now, the first one we look at is the low spender. So this is the person, as I said before, who would spend around $2,000 a month. So that's about $24,000 per year. Now, $2,000 a month on your credit cards isn't anything to sneeze at. That's a significant amount of spend. But in the points and miles space, it's not a lot of spend. And what you have to ask here is, does it really even matter what the multipliers are on my cards? Or could I do way better just by simply signing up for sign-up bonuses on new cards, canceling or downgrading those cards, and then continue to rinse and repeat that same cycle with my credit cards and my financial portfolio? So that's the real question. So to make this exercise simple, we're going to assume that both of these parties, the person who's spending low and the person who's spending a lot, have access to elevated multipliers in a few categories. And I know people can set up setups that have elevated multipliers in a lot more of these categories. My own setup has a lot more than this. But just for simplicity's sake and just to show you how the numbers work out, I wanted to make it rather easy and comparable with both of these fictional cases. So when it comes to elevated multipliers, we're going to consider three. We're going to consider dining, we're going to consider grocery, and we're going to consider gas. Now, the person who spends less on their cards, that $2,000 a month, I'm going to assume that they're spending $200 a month on dining, $200 a month on gas, and $400 a month on their grocery bill. So that's $800 a month at an elevated multiplier of 3x, because it's not too hard to get 3x credit cards on those particular multipliers. So that's kind of how we're going to look at it, and I'm going to apply the same thing over to the higher spender as well. So those elevated multipliers for the low spender would be $800 a month times 3, so that would give them 2,400 points a month in those elevated categories. Now we're going to assume they have a 2x card for just catch-all. And so at that, they would have left over $1,400 a month in spending at the 2x category. And that would give them 2,800 more points per month. So that 2,800 plus 2,400 points is going to come out to 5,200 points a month, which comes out to a grand total of 62,400 points for the year. So this low spender, if they just rely upon multipliers on their cards, some of them elevated categories at 3x, some of them just at the 2x catch-all, you get somewhere around 60,000 points for the year. Now let's take that same spend. Now, if you take that and you were to just focus on sign-up bonuses, so you don't even care what the multipliers are on the cards, you just get new cards. And let's assume that each of those new cards, you have to spend $6,000 a year to get 80,000 points. That's kind of par for the course in the credit card world right now. So you're spending $6,000 a year, getting 80,000 points. That means your $24,000 a year is pretty simple. It's just 4 different card signups. But the 80,000 points on those 4 different card signups is going to yield you 320,000 points. Now, compare the two. 320,000 points versus 62,400 points. It's 6 and 6 is 12, 18, 24. I mean, it's way more. I mean, by multiples if you just focus on sign-up bonuses. So that's why I often say multipliers only matter for people who are spending a lot of money on their cards, because it's going to be a lot smarter for you to focus in on those different sign-up bonuses if you don't have a lot of spend. Now let's compare that over to our second fictional case. This is a person who spends a lot of money. $8,500 a month comes out to $102,000 a year on their card. Now, some low spenders who are watching this are going to say, well, people don't do that. Yes, they do, especially business owners. There's a lot of folks who can run, and there's people who, like myself, I'm in a situation like that. I get reimbursed for travel and other things quite frequently, so I run money through my cards that isn't really my money. You know, I'm getting reimbursed for it. So there are ways for people to run a lot of money through their cards. Either it's natural spend, or either it's reimbursed spend, or it's business spend, or whatever it may be. So for those people who spend a lot, this case, $102,000 a year spent on a card, is going to have a very different look than what we just considered. Now, the first thing is maybe a person could find enough sign-up bonuses to get to $102,000. The problem is that's not sustainable long-term. If you're burning through those, and let's say you were to try to get those same cards that yield you 80,000 points for $6,000 in spend, that's 17 cards a year. That's a lot of cards. So if you do that for very many years, even if you can even do it the first year, you're not going to be able to sustain that. You're going to get shut out of ecosystems. You're going to get shut down. You're going to have to garden somewhat in this. So the assumption I'm making is that this person who spends $8,500 a month on their cards is going to do some sign-up bonuses, probably more than the 4 a year that we talked about with the lower spender. And those sign-up bonuses are going to give a lot of points, but then the remainder, they're really going to rely upon their elevated category, so multipliers are going to matter a lot more. So on their sign-ups, I was really conservative on it. I said 6 sign-ups a year at the same rate. So they spend $6,000 and they get 80,000 points a piece for those. So in essence, if they do that, it's going to take $3,000 a month of their monthly $8,500 spending to do that, and it's going to yield them 480,000 points off the bat with their sign-up bonuses. So then what's left? Well, let's kind of increase each of those elevated categories, because a person who has that much more spend is probably going to dine out a lot more, might spend more at the grocery store, might spend more on gas. So we'll double those. $400 in dining, $400 in gas, $800 on groceries. That's $1,600 a month in spending. Well, taking out the $3,000 a month they need for the sign-up bonuses, that leaves $3,900 a month at 2x, which comes out to 7,800 points a month. So when we add both of those together, the elevated multipliers and just their general spending minus what they're spending to get their sign-up bonuses, they're going to yield about 12,600 points a month just from their other spending besides the sign-up bonuses. And this doesn't even count the points they're going to get from those new cards that are working on sign-up bonuses. They're also going to be earning points on multipliers, but I haven't factored that in on either of these cases because I wanted to make it simple. So when you take their total spending apart from what they're spending on their sign-up bonuses, and you multiply that over the year, it's right over 151,000 points. You add that together with the 480,000 points that they're getting with their sign-up bonuses, they're going to yield 631,200 points in a year. So that's the difference. Basically, they're able to do some of both, and therefore the multipliers start to matter. Now, as a person has even more spend, the person who puts $200,000 through their cards. There are some people in my Discord community for this channel who put $1 million a year on their cards. Suddenly, sign-up bonuses matter less and less and less, and your multipliers matter more and more and more. And that's just kind of how the scale works. The more you spend, the more those multipliers on your cards matter, and the less the sign-up bonuses are of the total. Although sign-up bonuses for everyone are always going to be the greatest return that you're going to get on anything you put on a credit card. But it matters more and more and more the lower spend that a person has. Well, I hope this breakdown has been helpful to you. If you really want to dive into understanding the points and miles world even more, I have 2 tiers of different memberships on my channel. The first is called RM Insiders. You can join with the join link below. And it's just, you receive all my videos come out a little bit early for my channel members. And also I do weekly channel member only videos with different strategies and tactics. You can check that out. But then if you really want to play this game hard, like an expert, I have what's called my Spreadsheet Warriors. There's about a dozen of those in there. Every single Spreadsheet Warrior is an expert mode player on points and miles, and we have Zoom sessions together, face-to-face, ask questions directly. It is a great time, and what we do is we strategize with one another, things we don't put out on YouTube and others don't know about it. And I schedule those at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. So if you'd like to join either of those memberships, check out the join link below. Thank you for being here. I hope this breakdown is helpful to you, just to kind of help determine where am I at and what should I be focusing on. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and I will see you here next time.